All three of them are part of the Right India project. The Right India project is our very unique crowdsourcing for stories project that the Times India has launched with 11 authors. The 11 of them being Amish, Ravi, Ashwin Sanghi, three of us in India, and apart from that we have Chetan, we got Preeti Shinoy, we have Tuheen Sinha, we have Pujoy Datta, Jayashree Mishra, Ravinder Singh, Anita Nair, Madhuri Banerjee. I think that's around 11 of them. They are partnering with the Times of India for a short story contest. We are like 5 months into it and we have about 15,000 stories with us. And quite a few of them are beautiful, very good stories. This is like we have 11 authors, 11 winners, 11 months. But we have like, we thought when we started off, we'd say 11 stories as well. Now like we have thousands and thousands of beautiful stories, which we still have to figure out what to do with them now. We would have given you a short, beautiful AD that we've created, but unfortunately it's not possible here. It will be playing in some of the other walls, which you can capture that. So we have here with us Amish Tripathi, banker turned author, who has made a successful lucrative career of his unique mix of history, mythology and philosophy. We have Ashwin Sanghi, who juggles between business and writing and has churned out successful thrillers ranging from theological to business with a historical twist. And sitting in the middle we have Ravi Subramanian, the banker who stayed a banker and wrote banking thrillers till the love bug bit him and suddenly he started writing romance. We have to ask him why he's doing that. So starting with Amish, and we want to figure out, how do you search for your stories? Do you write some beautiful stories when you have to get your inspiration? And when you are dealing with, I mean in your case of course, it's all in there. You are writing mythological stories, you're thinking of from there, so the structure is there. But what inspires you to choose what you do and what you do with it later? And do you really have tricks up your sleeve on how to make these stories as gripping that you keep waiting and time for more and more?
I think if I give away all the tricks up my sleeve, then I'll have some problems because I need some secrets kept alive so that I can keep writing. But I think honestly, the way I write is, I know it might sound kind of movie-ish, but I don't try and search for stories. It's almost like they come to me. Even today, I still can't explain it. I open the laptop and there's a parallel universe that just opens up. And I just describe what I see. I can actually enter that world. I see the characters, I feel their emotions. And for me, in many ways, that world is as real as the world we're in right now. Perhaps more real, because right now I can't feel what you guys are feeling, but I can actually feel the emotions of the characters in the book. And that's the way it works for me. And I discover the story as a writer as much as the readers discover the story as readers. So there's often, that even my reaction is, oh, ye kaise ho gaya? How did this guy behave this way? So there are twists and turns that happen in the story which shock me as well. That's part of the fun of being a writer.
That's interesting. A lot of authors say that, that we just sit at our tables and maybe they go into a kind of a daze and it almost seems like some outside force is helping them along. And they think of ideas which when they snap out of the days, it seems like
Sure.
Ashwin, does this also work for you?
Honestly, no. For me, it's much more structured in that sense. And in fact, Amish and I were talking about it once. But for me, I actually do sort of spend a little time in terms of trying to make a story come to me. Generally, it will always be something that happens, like an incident, which will trigger a thought. And unlike Amish, who is fascinated by mythology, I am actually not that fascinated by mythology. For me, it's that wonderful overlap between mythology and history, and really think about it, take the word myth and take the word history. put them together, what do you get? A mystery. So I think for me, the possibility of that grey zone, I can't remember who said it, but that there is something in every believer that is itching to doubt. And there is something in every atheist which is itching to believe. Now, if you can write a story which causes that itch for both groups, then I think you've done your job. So that's pretty much what I go out looking for. It always starts with a what if. What if this were true? Or what if this were false? And then once that hypothesis has been established, then the story follows.
So your mind kind of keeps ticking all the time, and when you hit upon an idea that really gets you interested, then you sit down and think about it and do the story.
So writing is an itching thing.
Ravi, we know where you got your inspiration from while you were writing your banking thrillers. We don't need to ask you that, but what we really want to know is that where did you get your inspiration for writing the romance that you wrote? A lot of people tell us that he's written from real life, he's taken incidents from real life. Don't know whether they are his or somebody else's, because what his story talks about is a young author, an unsuccessful author who wants to do well, and she latches on into a popular successful author. And maybe it's Ravi, we don't know. Right after this, and then this guy, he has an extramarital affair with her. So right after the book has hit the stores, each author, everybody is out there trying to say that no, it's not me, it's somebody else, it's not me he's writing about. So interestingly, he's given not so subtle hints in there, talking about some author, some big author who also did a reality show, and some pretty not at all subtle hints, where he's actually used real names for his story as well.
Look, Vinita, first of all, most of my stories are inspired from reality. That's a fact. In fact, most of my stories, be it in the banking front or be it the one on romantic intrigue that I've just written, are all inspired by reality. But that's true for most authors, except for people like Amish who write about mythology. I think most of the writers who write contemporary fiction, people who write about stories set in the current era, are inspired by real life incidents. To me, fiction is nothing but just an exaggeration of facts. And that's what many people do. In my banking thrillers, I spent 20 years in banking. So for me, I've seen how transactions happen, I've seen how frauds happen, I've seen how relationships pan out in the banking industry. I've built all of them into my books. It's been 8 years in the publishing industry for me. So I've seen how authors function, I've seen how publishers function, I've seen how the relationship pans out, I've seen how authors manipulate, I've seen how...
Why are you pointing this way?
Okay, I've seen how authors manipulate. So I thought, and I wanted to move out of the banking industry per se in terms of writing a story on. So that's when I said, okay, what do I write about? And I'm a very lazy author. Lazy author in the sense, I don't want to do too much of a research. So when I wrote about banking, I didn't have to do too much of a research. So what's next best? I write about publishing, where after 8 years I don't need to do too much of a research. And there's so much out there in the world about publishing industry. You know, somebody does a reality show, somebody takes over bookstores, somebody, manipulates the bestseller list. There's a lot of things happening in the publishing industry. So it's like a banking industry. You can actually do a lot of thriller-based stuff in a publishing industry as well. So I decided to write that. And then, when I move out of a banking thriller, the next best emotion was romance. So, and a middle-aged.
He thinks the man got to protest too much. But we'll go back to Amish now. Amish, from you I want to know, is there a secret formula to being a bestseller? I mean, why is it? Do you really, I'm sure Shakespeare couldn't have been the only guy who could have possibly written as well as he did and such expansive material as he did. There might have been somebody else who was not discovered. There might have been another M.F. Hussain in the making who was not discovered. There might have been many other such artists and authors who may be better at writing but not done so well. I want to know, why does a Chetan Bhagat and an Amish Tripathi sell so well? much more than a lot of other authors put together?
I don't know, man. Okay, seriously, look, as far as writing is concerned, I don't think you can predict audience taste. My first book was rejected by every single publisher it was sent to. I quasi self-published my first book along with my agent. He's here somewhere, Anuj Bari. Anuj? There he is, yeah. So Anuj and I, every publisher rejected my first book. And there's very valid reason that look, it's based on a religious theme, and religious theme books weren't doing well. So they said this book has no more selling. And that's why it was rejected by every single publisher it was sent to. We stopped counting after 20 rejections. Then we quasi self-published it, and the first week itself it's a bestseller chart. So you can't really predict audience taste. So I always advise writers, don't think about writing a bestseller book. Just write the book that appeals to you as an author. Whether it will work or not, God knows, you can't really predict it. But that's the writing part of the process. The writing part has to be pure, you have to write it with the purity of your heart. Then there is the marketing part of the process. There are many authors who don't take marketing seriously enough. I don't know how many of the audience, how many of you guys want to be writers or are writers? My God. Are there any readers out here? Okay. Yeah, and I also believe every good writer must be a good reader. I strongly believe that. But all of you who are writers, there are many writers who think that their job is over once they finish the book. No, it's not. Just another job begins at that time, that you have to market your book properly. A good book doesn't sell itself. I read a lot of books. I read at minimum 4-5 books every month. And I can give you a long list of books which should have been bestsellers, but they didn't become bestsellers because they weren't marketed properly. So you have to take marketing seriously as well. And that's something that our industry is learning only now. Our industry didn't really take marketing seriously till a few years ago. And that reflected in the sales. It's a noisy world. People are distracted by so many things. You have to make your message heard. You might really love a book, but if you haven't heard of it, how the hell will you pick it up and buy it? So there is the writing process which must be pure. You should care about the audience or the market at all. And then there's the marketing process where you have to be pragmatic and driving. So you have to be kind of like a schizophrenic.
Any quick questions? Maybe we can take a couple of them.
Yeah, that's okay.
Is it commercial fiction writing about what a writer wants to write or what a reader wants to read? And is content, like relatable content, used as a format by contemporary writers for being bestsellers?
So all writing is about what the writer wants to write. Commercial fiction just happens to sell. Other fiction doesn't sell. That's the way I see it. The writer should write what he wants to write. That's the way I see it. But seriously, it was it's like judging a good book. Whether you like a book or a movie. You can't really make a graph and ये plot point वगैरह वैसा नहीं होता है. Some stories just move you. And you know that this is the one. Liking a good book, liking a movie is a bit like falling in love. You just know this is the best one. Sutapa's story, for example, I actually cried at the end of the story. For a short story to get you to feel so deeply for a character, when actually you don't have that much time, that was fantastic. So I was genuinely blown away. I gave it to my wife. She also cried at the end of the book. It was something which brought in Shivaji very deeply, and I assume she's a Maharashtrian because I'm from UP, but I spent a lot of time in Maharashtra. And so for us Maharashtrians, Shivaji is really important. It's a very deep part of our culture. I was surprised to hear that she's not Maharashtrian, and she somehow really got that in. And Shivaji comes in just for 2 scenes. So it really is about something that can deeply move you. That's how we learn it. There's no graph or anything like that. And yes, there is wine and whiskey, but that's part of the game.
But I would say that, of course, part one was the fact that Vinita did a lot of the straight work. So to that extent, by the time that we ended up receiving stories, they were filtered. But having said that, the ones that we did receive, you could instantly make out which one sort of, because I think every author will have his own yardsticks in terms of figuring out that what is it that appeals to me. I'm sure that Amish's yardstick would have been different to mine. And for me, for example, when it's a short story, the way I look at it is that in a short story, you really don't have too much time to develop your character. So for me, what is important is plot. And so the winner in my case was someone who had managed to sort of really, by the time I reached the end, there was a double whammy because it was a double surprise, like one of those twists, in sort of a very, I didn't see it coming. Now, when I read a story and I don't see the twist coming, I love that. So, I mean, yeah.
And I just had one last thing. I don't know about Ashwin, but all the shortlisted stories that I read, every one of them was actually brilliant. Not one of them did I think, yaar, sara ye shortlist mein kaise ghusa hai? Not one of them was like that. So it really shows the quality of writing that's available in India. It was fantastic.
In fact, it was really difficult to sort of rank in order in terms of, and particularly when it came to, let's say, the top 5, then what will come into the top 5, it was really difficult.
No, the one criteria that I always use when I look at the stories is that some stories just stick to the mind. You walk away from the story and you don't forget it. It walks with you. So that was very important when we were looking at the stories, before the stories went to the authors. And seriously, what Amish said, we have some brilliant stories out there, and I keep telling everybody there are no losers in Bright India, not at all, because there are hundreds and thousands of winners out there who could have been a winner, except we have to have only top 10 winners and one winner.